Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about where's the best place to find or buy land here in the great state of Texas. So if that's what you're here for, stick around because we're going to be getting after it right now. Hey, I am Kerry Fletcher, land and ranch specialist here at MIMS Group. And this channel is all about what's it like to live, eat, sleep, drink the land and ranch lifestyle. So if that's what you're here for, if that's what you're looking for, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, that way you're notified every time we put out a new video. So, and if you like it, give us a big old thumbs up, let us know. If you have any comments or questions, areas that you'd like for us to look into and do some research, put a comment down in the comment sections. We'd love to hear from you. And look, we help people all the time when finding their little piece of heaven here in Texas. So when you're ready, go ahead and give us a call, send us a text message, send us that email, any way you want to get a hold of us. Heck, even if you want to send a note via Pony Express, we've got your back when moving here to Texas. So let's get into today. Now, today's going to be a little bit of a different video if you've followed any of my other videos. This is going to be the most informative. We're going to let, most of you guys probably don't remember this, but the old AT&T commercial where it's let your fingers do the walking. We're going to be showing you the keys to how to evaluate and find the right areas for you when you're looking for land here in Texas. So let's get to it. For those of you who have ever been a part of Texas history or, grew up in Texas and had those mandatory Texas history classes, you're probably familiar with this slide. For those of you who aren't, let me just go through it. These are basically the ecoregions, the top 10 ecoregions within the state of Texas. And I'm going to go through each one of them, just kind of big picture of what they are and what defines it. First, number one is what's called the Piney Woods. So it's over on the far east side of Texas. Now, this is defined by, you guessed it, piney woods, right? You've got a lot of pines, thick forest area. Typically the farms, the ranches, the places are smaller than they are out west. Now, number two is this Gulf Coast prairies and marshes. Again, it's sort of self-describing, but let's just go through it in the fact that you're going to have a lot of sandy soils. You're going to have some good precipitation. You're not going to have nearly as many trees, but instead you're going to have a lot of very deep, high grasses. You also have, and we'll get into this, tributaries. The Colorado River runs through here, the Brazos here, the Trinity here. You have a lot of these river basins that run through. Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting. Number three, the post oak savanna. So the post oak savanna, as you can see, the post oak savanna and the blackland prairie really kind of have this overlap between the two of them. And when we get deeper in, you'll really see it. But the post oak savanna is defined as sandy soils, a lot of oak trees, a lot of rolling hills, topography, really some good land that is a combination of topography, trees, and grasses. This blackland prairie, which cuts across here and cuts across here, it's defined by blackland dirt. I mean, really good, rich soils. Not many trees. You'll see a lot of row crops, a lot of cotton, a lot of sorghum, really some high yield, high dollar farmland that's along in here, and that's just because it's got such great rich soils. Number five, cross timbers. Now this cross timbers really has a lot of shared characteristics with this post oak savanna. What makes the big difference is the soil depth, the soil composition, and the precipitation. So while you're going to have a lot of timbers, such as post oaks, they're going to tend to be smaller, more sparse, and you're going to have a lot more spruce, a lot more fir, a lot more cedar, and as you start getting into the western reaches of it, a lot more mesquite and thorny bushes and brush. Now, number 6, you've got the South Texas Plains. It's hot. Typically, the soils are not nearly as good. Surprisingly, with as far east as it is, it doesn't get nearly as much precipitation as 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the land tends to be dominated by a lot of cactus, a lot of thorn bushes, a lot of very short thorny trees along in here. So number 7, this is the Edwards Plateau, and we'll really get into the differences here. But basically, you've got this large limestone outcropping. You get a lot of limestone, a lot of spring, a lot of underground water, very thin soils, a lot of steep cliffs, a lot of hills. This is known as the Texas Hill Country. 8, rolling plains, basically rolling hills, but a lot of grassland. Number 9, this is the high plains. Now, this is what the Spaniards first called the Llano Estacado, the staked plains, where literally it was so flat and so open that they had to drive stakes into the ground to kind of say where they were, where they weren't. And then, of course, the Trans-Pecos, which is all about the desert transitioning into the mountainous regions and up into El Paso. So a lot of those regions are driven by your annual precipitation. No surprises here. Your southeast, your piney woods, you're getting down here above 54 to 50 to 54 inches of rain every year, which will support, along with those soils, really good tree and grass vegetation. Precipitation map. Now let's talk, what's the topography look like? So you've got flat coastal plains here. It's very flat, very low elevation. You've got some gentle rolling hills in this area here as it starts to undulate. You have very flat black land, and basically they're prairies. And everything west of there really starts to take off as far as elevation. First, you've got the Edwards Plateau. You've got the Central Texas Uplift, which if you're familiar with all the pink granite and the granite that was formed to make the state capitol, all of it was mined and quarried here. You've got a lot of limestone mining. You've got the start of a number of spring-fed rivers right here. Really big change in elevation, as well as a more gradual change of elevation here in this Grand Prairie. Then you get this north central prairie, and then back over here to the high plains like we talked about, and this starts to be the high level plains that are just sort of an offshoot of the Rocky Mountains as you start coming out of the Rocky Mountains in New Mexico and Colorado, and then of course an extension of the Rocky Mountains down here into Texas along this basin range. Soils maps, okay, blackland dirt. As we talked about, these tributaries that come down here, right, and then feed into the soils. You've got a lot of limestone up in here, so you've got a lot of acidic soils, thin soils. You've got some sandy loams. This is the reason why this soil belt here and this soil belt here is the reason why you've got the Blackland Prairie defined different from the post oak savanna. These soils are much more sandy loam. You're able to support a lot of really good trees and not support those heavy row crops like you can in the Blackland prairies. You know, acidic soils, thin soils up in here, more rocky in this outcrop. You get some decent soils, but thin up in here. And then of course you've got your desert and very thin soils up in these regions. Aquifers, it's important to, you know, if you guys have ever caught my video earlier about what you need to know and what are the key things, and one of them is the water rights or the mineral rights. And reason being is you know, basic real estate law says that you own everything above and everything below, but that's not necessarily the case when it comes to water rights, and those have been changing. It's because, you know, these major aquifers and these major reserves support the growing populations of Austin, San Antonio, Waco, Temple, and so you know, you can no longer just assume that you're going to own and be grandfathered into an uncontrolled, unfettered water rights if you're moving into some of these aquifers. And these little spots on the map, if you can see here, they're actually where the major springs are. So you've got the head of the Guadalupe River, the head of the San Marcos River. A lot of these rivers that feed in start right here, and because you have the Edwards Plateau pushing up, you've got a lot of caves back in here, but you also have these natural springs that feed these rivers, and it's one of the reasons that makes the Edwards Plateau and the Texas Hill Country so desirable, is because of the water and the springs and the rivers. Then vegetation cover types. So this is just a high level, you know, vegetation. Here you got the blackland prairie, so these are going to be row crops. Literally, these are oak trees with some surface grass. This is the post oak savanna. You're going to have up in here the cross timbers. Again, you'll see these are oaks, but it's a different type of oaks. You'll have a lot of mesquite along this way, a lot of thick underbrush down along in here, grasslands. You have the piney, you know, trees and grasses along in here. So this is vegetation, and as we transition from this presentation and more of a static, I'm going to show you where you can go in and do a deep dive, and we're going to transition from here, use this as a launch off point, to two tools or two things that I use whenever sitting down with clients and going, okay, we'll come and use basically these two tools to really fine tune where we're looking. And this is just as simple as you can see up here. This is just a Google Maps with a satellite. And this stuff should start really jumping out at you now that you've had some of this class. And the other one is this, it's called Geographic Information Systems, and I'll put a link to it. It's Texas Parks and Wildlife. But you can come down here, and this is what's called the Texas Ecosystem Analytical Mapper. Let's pull that bad boy up. Let's launch this app. And then you can really get, going the wrong way. You can really get down in here and get some granularity on what are the ecosystems. Yep, let's pop this up. What are the ecosystems? What is the vegetation? What does the land look like from a satellite perspective? And we can come in here and we can hit identify, and we can identify what is this purple area. There looks like there's a whole bunch of this purple area all in here. What is this? We'll hit this marker. Okay, so this purple, we hit it here. Sorry about that. So this vegetation identification. So this is row crops. This type includes all cropland where fields are fallow. Okay, row crops. Here's even, they'll give you a photo of it. Pull that over. What the land, what it typically looks like in this area. All you have to do is come back over here and just clear markers. Okay, so you can see that this right here is, the red is urban growth. So we're looking at Austin, and this is Travis County, this is Williamson County, this is I-35, right? You've got the growth of Temple, and then Colleen over here. And this is that transition that we've been talking about, where you got the Blackland Prairie, the Post Oak Savanna over here, the Edwards Plateau over in this, and then even up in this area you have this Central Texas outcropping right up in here in and around Llano County. And you can see how the vegetation changes from one to the other. But this is a little tool that we talk about. Okay, what are the goals? Do you want to have a workable piece of land that you're able to have a good cow-calf operation off of? You want something that maybe you can have the options of rotating into row crops. Well, you're going to want to be over in this area, right? Say you want to be somewhere near this Post Oak Savanna, you want to have some good hunting. You know, you can really go in here, and based on what you want to do and what your goals are, this is going to be a great tool to help you understand. Now, this map can give us, and let's just do a couple more examples here. Let's look at this marker. So this marker is telling us vegetation identity. The Llano Uplift Grasslands. It'll give us a picture of what that looks like. Yep, very typical in and around that Llano area where you've got that outcropping. Let's go up here to one of my favorite areas. Here you got San Saba. You can see how it transitions. You got the Colorado River, the San Saba River, and how the different vegetation transitions from one area to the next, how it transitions from San Saba County up here to Mills County, and how the vegetation and the topography is so much different on the west side and the southwest side of Mills County versus the east side. It starts to get over into that much less of this Texas hill country over here in San Saba in the west part of Mills County, and then much more into this cross timbers area. Your topography and your vegetation starts becoming much more similar to Brownwood, Comanche, Stephenville, Dublin area. Now, big picture, we can see, just because everything in that Texas ecosystem is all driven by satellite imagery. Well, if you can come here, you can actually see from the satellite, this is the Post Oak Savanna. This is the Blackland Prairie. This is another little offshoot of the Blackland Prairie, Post Oak Savanna. And then you can start getting really detailed here. This is the same transition as you go from Blackland Farms all up in here, Post Oak Savanna right up in here, and it transitions right over into this Edwards Plateau. I love this view because it shows you have the limestone quarries up here where they're actually mining limestone in the middle of this urban area, and then transitions right on into this Edwards Plateau, and you can see the steep cliffs, you can see the rocky outcrops, you can see the vegetation change just right there, and it's all right along this I-35 divide. Hey, thank you for sticking around and through this video. I know it was a lot of detail, and I know going into that computer may not be what you're looking for, but that is good stuff. If you really want to save some time, save some energy, and really learn and understand about land and ranch properties here in Texas, that's the keys to the kingdom. Hey, don't forget, whenever you guys are ready, just give us a call, send us a text message, send us that email, heck, send us a note via Pony Express. We love working with folks as they're transitioning and moving out to find that little piece of heaven. Thank you.